All right, welcome back to another episode of Grieving and Growing. I am your host, LaKesha Rawls, and I am so happy to have your fabulous co-host with me today, my sister, DeNesha Rawls Smith. But most importantly, we are welcoming our Auntie Bay. Bay is best auntie ever. Our Auntie Bay, my Auntie Linda, Mrs. Linda Rawls-Gill, to the show. Welcome, Auntie.
Thank you. Thank
Oh, you look amazing. You
Yeah,
look
you look good.
amazing. Got your pearls on. Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Our auntie introduced us to pearls. So she started a tradition in the family where the ladies receive pearl rings when we turn 16. So, yeah, that's how we got introduced to pearls. That's a story for another day. But
Yes.
welcome to Grieving and Growing. And so today we're going to be talking with our auntie. Nisha, tell the people what we're talking to our auntie about today.
Well, today we have our auntie here to tell a widow's story. She's going to discuss with us what she's experienced and learned and grown through after the loss of her husband. And I really say after the loss of her husband on the back of the loss of her mother. So we're going to hear all about that. We're also going to get some tips on how to behave, y'all. We need to act right when we dealing with widows and their man has died. I mean, let's be for real. So we
Right.
need to act. There's a certain way that we can act that is supportive, and there's a way that we can act that's destructive. So she's going to give us all the gems and secrets about that as well. But before we do that, let's laugh a little bit. I mean, maybe we'll laugh, but I don't know how Auntie gonna feel. But Auntie, can you tell the people? I mean, let's just get it out here. The first time you experienced grief, so my dear sister and I can apologize to you in front of the world. Can you tell the people?
Oh, my
you.
goodness.
So, the first time I experienced grief was my baby Chrissy. She's a baby doll with red hair that my daddy gave me for Christmas. And I loved everything about LaKesha and DeNesha. And I let them play with all my things. And they killed my baby Chrissy.
Such a
Y'all ruined her.
Kill is such
I
a
dressed
strong word.
I could say murder, but I said killed. Um, y'all killed her.
Mhm.
And I still, at 55, I still have not healed from that.
Mm.
I tried to replace her, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. We sorry. We mean to do it.
No, but I think you all did. I really, because y'all still giggle.
I know, but it's just it's an uncomfortable giggle.
It
This
is.
is
No,
it is. We feel
absolutely
bad.
not.
It's a defense mechanism
It's a
because,
defense.
it's bad what we did to Chrissy. I don't remember all of it, but I do remember the result. I just don't remember how it all happened. I know we cut her
I'm,
hair.
yes, but I'm confident that it was Keisha that did it. I'm confident in that. And so I apologize because it was so hard being a good twin. And so I'm so sorry about that.
Can I just say, if you were up for parole and this was what you were using to get out, you
Right.
would not.
Oh goodness.
The good twin
We
theory.
just have to laugh instead of cry sometimes. So
Listen,
But absolutely, Chrissy was
yeah,
definitely my first grieving. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm still not over it.
well, I apologize for the part I played in the murder of Chrissy. And I would pray that you would forgive me.
Oh, I forgive you. I forgave y'all. Maybe once Myra was born, I forgave y'all.
No, because you got a real baby doll.
Mm-hmm.
It was gorgeous, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sincerely apologize too.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I feel bad.
Oh,
I've tried to replace her. I've looked for her. you know, and I know we ate your lip gloss as well. And
Yes.
and
I do recall that, and it was a very good experience for me. It was very tasty. I'm glad I had that experience in my lifetime. I do apologize, but I remember that very vividly, and it was absolutely amazing. It was really good. It smelled well, but it tastes even better. I remember that. And why would they make something with flavor that you weren't supposed to eat? I'm just saying.
it's really the manufacturer's fault,
It
right?
is
I mean, because we were only kids.
we were only kids, and it was very good, and I liked it. Thank you.
I have no words.
I did. It was good to me.
Yeah.
I could find it now because I think other little kids should experience that.
Well, the new lip gloss doesn't taste as well as what you all things put in it.
You don't remember lip gloss, Nisha? It wasn't good to you?
You know, I do recall it, and I do. It was good. It was good. It was good. But my memory of all of this is very, very vague. It really is. I remember the Dow House. That's what I remember. The schoolhouse or Dow House. That's what I remember. Playing with that in the front foyer on Taylor Street. It was like the front room, and it was a freezer, I believe, there. But we would play with, I thought it was either a school or a Dow House. I have vivid memories of that. And I don't believe that we were the best caretakers of that either. But I do.
But I didn't hold those things as dear as I did Chrissy.
I understand.
And I think the reason that y'all killed her is because I would dress her in y'all baby clothes.
Oh.
Yeah.
There may have been some jealousy there.
There may have
territorial. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you spent more time with her than us and we didn't like it.
Maybe. There's a lot of things, but we are forgiven. And that's awesome. Because that's what God will want. That's what Jesus will want. So thank you for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit, AT, about my uncle. I introduced my Uncle D to my staff yesterday, and when I told about my family, and I had him in the posture of a father, and I told them that my Uncle D is the reason why I'm married to the man I'm married to, because my Uncle D taught me how a man is supposed to love his wife, how a man is supposed to treat the woman he loves, and how to care for her. And I think if I hadn't had that example, I don't know that I would have allowed myself to be chosen by the right type of man. And I love my husband. So I feel like my Uncle D was a huge part of me being a woman that's married and learning, about those things. So in addition to that, he really showed me what a father is like, because he was a father, you and him. I mean, really, I gave birth to Tia, and she belonged to y'all. So I feel that Uncle D really, he modeled how a father treats his children. And so I just want you to talk about this great man and, what your experience has been like.
I met Donovan because of Jalinda.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. When I met him, it was just something. He was absolutely honest to a fault. He was all right with them 3 kids I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did everything about our relationship was non-traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely was red flags waving all around it. I remember Sisterhood telling me, I don't know about him moving in so quick. And next thing I know, she was loving him just as much.
Yes.
He had a way. He was not quiet. He never met a stranger. He was about his business. Like he was just everything. And when I met him, I wasn't even looking.
Mm-hmm.
I was, how Angie used to say, out in the world doing it. And I wasn't looking to be booed up or nothing, but when I met him, I knew he was about paying his bills. He was about taking care of family. It was nothing for him to cook for the kids. It was just a total package.
Yeah.
You know, he was it. And he loved to spoil me.
Yes, he did.
And,
Yes, he
you know,
did.
I don't know. He was just everything. He was
Mhm.
that guy.
Yeah, he was that guy.
He was that guy.
He was that
He
guy.
always had a word for people. Um, a lot of things he said and did, he learned from his daddy.
Mm-hmm.
And he would always say, my daddy used to always tell me stuff, and I would just blow it off. But as I got older,
Mm-hmm.
it started to click. And so I would see him doing the same thing with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And as y'all all got older, a
Yes.
lot of things that y'all was like, oh, here come Uncle D with another lecture.
Mm-hmm.
And that lecture, like maybe 10 years later, made sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I love that. I know Keisha, you always say that Uncle D taught you to be a lender, can you, and not a borrower. But
Oh
he
yeah,
taught me to be a giver, but he taught her to be a lender and not a borrower.
he
And
did. He
yeah,
did.
so talk a little bit about that.
So, Nisha, you talk about Uncle D being a father figure. He absolutely was, but it started for me um, when I was in high school because, I wanted to do my own thing in high school. I thought I was grown and whatever mama said not to do, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. Whatever she tells me to do. I was just very rebellious. And so I got in trouble one time and mama was just like, okay, you got to go. You got to go.
Mhm.
And I remember leaving the house and like walking up the sidewalk. And I guess mama cared enough about me to call Auntie Lindlin to pick me up. So Auntie Lindlin picked me up and I went to stay with her. And while staying with her, that's where I, first got my introduction to Uncle D. And Uncle D was absolutely about teamwork. Auntie Linda was about teamwork. You do chores in this house. So I learned, how to be a support to a household and, really be obedient.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know, but during that time period, that rebellion that I had, it subsided.
Mhm.
And Uncle D and our relationship grew stronger. And when I went away to college, he took me shopping. So, and back then, I was into Eddie Bauer. I was into the polos and the Docker pants or khaki pants. And he let me get whatever I wanted. Like, it was like a shopping spree. I walked away with like 4 or 5 outfits and just all kind of stuff. And he just really fathered me in the way of being a provider, right? And so
Mhm.
whenever I would see him, if I came home for the weekend, came home to do laundry, whatever, he always had some advice, a good advice, a good game of dominoes, Keisha knows, whatever you want to call it, a good game of dominoes. And he always had some money for me, like just some type of money, right? He always gave me cash. And they were the only ones who sent me care packages, Auntie Lily and Uncle D. All the time I was in college, they were always who did care packages for me. But I remember as I was getting ready to graduate, I moved out of my apartment. I had a roommate, and then I moved out into my own apartment, still in Spartan Village. And so I was getting ready to graduate, and I remember one time I did not have enough money for my rent. Like I really didn't. I didn't have enough money, so I asked Uncle D, could I borrow money? And the rule with Uncle D was, you can borrow money, but you have to pay it back, right? You have to
One
pay it
time.
on time, right? So I had seen where he would let you borrow money, Nisha, and whenever you went to pay it back, if you paid it back on time, he would be like, you can keep it. right? He would always let you keep it. So we were in the car. I think they had come to pick me up from Michigan State to take me back to Flint. And I was in the back seat, and it was my day to pay my money back. And so I handed my money up like, oh, Uncle D, here's the money you lent me for my rent. And so I'm passing my money up to the front of the car where he was. He was in the driver's seat. And so he gets the money, and I'm like, I'm waiting, right? Because I want that money to be passed back, right? So I'm waiting for him to pass that money back. And I'm like waiting and waiting. And I'm like, Uncle D, I just gave you the money. He was like, oh, yeah, I'm keeping this money. And I'm like, huh? What? No, you don't do that with Nisha. He was like, nah, baby, I'm keeping this money this time. And so from that day forward, I was very grateful, right, that he had given me the money. But he also taught me a lesson. One, you don't borrow money you can't pay back, right? Two, you don't lend money you can't go without.
Yeah.
So in that situation, I learned that day to be a lender and not a borrower. And I can honestly say he taught me responsibility. He taught me I wanted to be like him, and I wanted to be a provider for my family. I wanted to be able to help, not necessarily a provider, but I wanted to be able to help and it not affect me. Like he could have given me that money back, but he wanted to teach me something because I was literally months from graduating. And so, and I never borrowed money from Uncle D again after that.
Yeah.
I never had to borrow money from him again after that. And not because he made me pay him back, but because I learned the lesson in that. You live within your means. And, because I'd be out there shopping and do whatever I wanted to do because I knew as long as I pay back on time, it's going to get right back to me. So, but, I learned that lesson. I never had to borrow money from him again. And that's
probably from anyone. You never borrow from anyone again.
Not really from anyone again. Maybe my husband that one. but that was a big lesson for me, and just the impact he made on me. And he made you want to just think outside of the box on how you showed up in the world. What did you mean to your family? Were you truly a help to the family, or were you a hindrance? Because he was always a help.
He was big on love. If you loved on him, he loved on you. He was big on that.
Yeah.
So how have you been? Tell us about, losing your husband and how you've dealt with that.
It was hard. Uncle D was not the healthiest person.
Right.
When he got sick, he got sick. And he always pulled out, like he would be down and you would be so nervous. And next thing you know, he laying in the bed grinning, he right back at it like nothing happened. But this last time, it was different. And it was right after Mama's. And I was expecting Mama, but I was not expecting Donovan. And it was just hard because it was so unexpected. Because like I said, he would always, no matter how scary it was, he would always bounce back. But my prayer was always, Lord, have your way. Lord, do your will. Let your will be done. And so when he passed, he was on the machine, and when I went out there, Nikki took me out there, and I knew when I seen him, he was gone, because I knew that he didn't want to linger. He never wanted to be a burden. He never wanted to be less than a man, because Donovan was a man's man, and he did not want to be seen, viewed as not being a whole man. So it was hard, but I couldn't be selfish in that moment and keep him, because I knew, we've had conversations often about that moment. So that made it easier because I already knew what was to be done. But yet it was still hard because he wasn't gonna be here anymore, 28 years and he's not here anymore. So that was the difficult part, but just the process of letting him go, it was one of those things I knew I had to do, So I guess just knowing what he already wanted made it easier.
Yes.
So it took that part of the situation away. So it was no doubt in my mind. And I was telling Nikki, like, he never wanted to be here like this. And so when I told them that we're letting him go, then the doctors and things, they had all these different things they wanted to try to do. I'm like, no, because you've already told me what the outcome is going to be. So we don't need to prolong the outcome. And so
yeah,
that was difficult to do. I think it was harder to tell the kids, Nick and Alex. But I don't feel bad,
right.
I'm comfortable with the decisions that I made for my husband because we had an understanding. Things happen.
For you, he told you what he wanted done, and you
it wasn't a mystery.
Yeah. And in the midst of it, things happened. That I didn't think would happen, and maybe I expected it, but maybe not at the time, in the place.
Right.
But I was still okay with my decision, other people wasn't, but these were conversations that me and Donovan had.
Right.
These were pillow talk conversations. And I'm just a firm believer. Like, you can't just, if you make a decision while you laying in the bed with your husband having pillow talk, nobody
can undo that.
Nobody. And whatever conversations me and Donovan had, decisions we had, that was the decision we made. And I was okay with sticking with those decisions, be it this doggone Ninja Warrior course in my backyard. Just if we agree to it, then okay. And sometimes the decision I may regret the course, but the dog, but but it's our decision and we made it. I have to follow through with it because we talked about it in that bed and we agreed to it, And so I'm okay with the decisions that I made for him. Some people not, but they didn't lay in the bed with him for years.
Okay. And it's easy to make a decision when somebody else has already communicated their choice. When somebody communicates their choice, when your husband communicates their choice, or that wife communicates their choice, there's confidence in that. You're like, I know one thing. I know he said this, and that I have to do. And so there's confidence in that, and I think that's powerful. And I think there's a lesson for extended family members, siblings, aunts, anyone, that is a supporter. They should be in a position of support for someone who is who had that decision to make, such as yourself. What would be your advice to those supporters, those friends and family members that, hey, no doubt they love that loved one too, but you're the wife or you're the husband, you're the spouse? What do you say to those people?
I think you have to just follow the person that's married to him. Follow her, follow my lead, follow the wife's lead, follow the husband's lead. Especially if you have not been designated as a person to make the decisions, just follow the lead of the person who is. I don't take away a sibling's grief. I don't take away a cousin's grief. I don't take away your grief. I don't take away. It's not my place to second guess your love for the person. It's not my place. It's just my place to follow the instructions that he has left for me for his life. When me and Donovan got together, he would always say he wanted to be cremated. And for years, for maybe the first 2 years, I was totally against it. We went back and forth, back and forth. Finally, I just said, whatever you want, sir.
Yeah.
That's what we gonna do.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. But you have to just follow the person's lead. Even if you don't like it, the best thing to do is follow the lead and be quiet. Quietly follow the lead. But you can't overstep.
Right.
That really shows you who people are. It shows their true, the true person. And sometimes people get so emotional about things that they have no power over. And they overstep, they burn bridges.
Yeah.
And some bridges are not to be rebuilt.
Right.
You have to be careful because you want my friend, you want just somebody I met the other day, 28 years ago. Thick and thin. Yeah, you just have to be respectful of that marriage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Regardless of what your thought process is of the spouse.
That's very brave of you to carry out his wishes, because that Mr. Hunter down there, he tells me the same thing. He want to be cremated. I'm like, yeah, I'm hoping I go before you, sir. And he said it long before he even married me. So I mean, at the end of the day, I'm gonna do what he wants done. But I understand what you mean by, having to respect what your spouse has told you late in the midnight hour when y'all sleep and getting ready to go to bed, or, even before y'all even made that commitment. So that's, kudos to you, Lynn. You have just been
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely phenomenal wife, a rock throughout this whole process. I mean, I think about in my mind where I believe this started, right? I believe when we were there in Granny's final days, when Uncle D had that fall, that was where I felt like everything started for him, that resulted in his passing. And I know that's in reality, that's probably not the case. There were different things that had happened, to your point, throughout the years where he had gotten sick. But in my mind, it all started with that fall. And it's so frustrating to me, and more so even just unfair to me. I think that was honestly where I was just like, God, really? Like, this how you gonna do this thing? How did you talked a lot about like Uncle D and kind of your experience with that and how you were able to navigate and how y'all had a clear understanding. But to think about how that started that night, and then I think it was like the very next day is when Granny passed.
Good night.
How did you get through that? It was the same night. Yeah. How did you get that part?
I just credit my village, people praying for me, praying with me. Yeah. Then I joined the support group from church, and that helped a lot. But yeah, just the village. A lot of things that were being done just to look out for me.
Yeah.
And a lot of random texts just to say, I love you. How you doing? Do you need anything? Bowls of grits. Just random things that you don't know you need.
Yeah.
Like the support group, I wasn't really feeling it, but it ended up being a lot of help. A lot of help. Yeah. Just a lot of prayers.
Yeah.
So the support group, who's in the group? Tell us more about that.
So the support group was started by a couple of ladies that one used to go to Morning Star and one still does. But it ended up being a support group full of people I've known my entire life, which was weird. But it ended up being one of the best decisions I made because I was not feeling it at first. Cheryl was very adamant about doing it, and my pastor, bless his heart, he always has a slick way of getting me to do things that's not within my comfort zone. But yeah, I went and I told Myra 3 strikes and I'm out. But I stayed, and I look forward to those meetings we have. It helps because they relate to me just sitting at the oil change place having a moment. Because I never got my oil change. Donovan did. So they can relate to your spouse being gone. So I could call you and say, I had a bad day at Home Depot. And you would be like, oh, Auntie, it'll be okay. But when I call Shell, she absolutely gets where I'm coming from because she knows that I wouldn't go to Home Depot. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
she lost her husband, I lost my husband.
Right.
You know, so that helps.
Mhm.
And a husband that spoiled you, so you don't know about paying no restaurant bills, no changing no oil. Like there's certain things you have not had to do in the last 30 years because your husband was like, I got that for you.
All of that. I forgot to pay the cable bill a couple of times. Just different things. Like I tell people all the time, you don't have to be rich to be a kept woman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was absolutely a kept woman.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love it.
I do too.
what's
Hey,
crazy is
Mr.
that
Hunter.
Yeah. Can somebody
before
call my
I got
husband and tell
married,
him that?
I was a single mother, so I had to pay all my own bills and things. But
Yeah.
once Donovan came in, he came in like a champ.
Mm-hmm.
I still had to work,
Mm-hmm.
but like we never wanted for anything.
Mm-hmm.
If it got tight, he figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to slowly move back into the single mother mode because
Mhm.
I don't have him anymore. And it's different. Like I was telling y'all before, we went out to eat and I'm just sitting there. Just sitting there. And she's like, come on, girl. I'm like, oh, I gotta pay the bill. And it's funny, but it's real
Yeah,
life.
it's real.
It's real life. I can ride around in the car, get the being in, and I'm like, what's going on? Oh, you need to go to the gas station, Linda.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things like that. Even when I go to the bank, the lady will say, you want a printout of your account? It's like, no. It's like, yeah, well, Donovan will get one. I said, well, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
I better
yeah,
get one then, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's things like that.
And I love that there's that support group with people with like experiences, because their
Yeah,
advice, that conversation, that's going to be totally different than calling and I'm whining because I can't call and whine to him. that's
yeah,
what I mean. Everybody else is like, we're looking for the counselor, we're complaining about whatever he provided, the love. For me it was the counseling. I cannot say how much I was counseled by my Uncle D. I even made up a song about my Uncle D. So Uncle D, you mean so much to me. Y'all know the lyrics, don't play.
yeah.
But going to dinner, like to your point with Shell and these people, that those are like experience. That's a totally different conversation. And I can see how that could be a support, whereas some of our conversations might be a burden because
Right.
we having a fit.
We calling and you gotta console us. I know I did.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't mind consoling because I definitely get what he meant to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely get it. And I get the loss,
Mm-hmm.
the hurt. So I don't mind at all. But I know when I call them,
Yeah.
it'll be different,
That's
That's
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Thank you.
now tell us about, you told us about the widow group, but now we want to hear about the creative Auntie Bay, the event planner extraordinaire.
Yes.
Put a open house. We'll put a event, a baby shower together, and it looks like it needs to be in somebody's Vogue magazine for home
Yes.
decor and room decor.
Better Homes and Gardens
There
or
you
something.
go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing else. We will pump each other up. No, but I mostly do it for the family and close friends. It's something I started doing when Myra got married because no, I'm not about to pay nobody to do all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll figure it out. But I love it, and it definitely takes me to another place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll say, well, I'm getting ready to go into the factory. I'm going in the shop. And don't mean work at all, but I'm just going into another zone. And I can be up there for hours
Mm-hmm.
and come out with some really good stuff. Sometimes I surprise myself. But it's just something I love to do, and it's something that me and Donovan would tag team. Like if I'm decorating, he's absolutely cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael's shower was the first time we didn't tag team, and it was different. But that shower was still beautiful.
It was beautiful.
I will say, I thought I was gonna not wanna do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still like doing it. So I still go up there and make a wreath or something. I did some of my best creating for Rashad.
Yes,
Like,
it was absolutely wonderful.
those centerpieces, I was like, oh.
Exactly what I just
Yes.
said. Those centerpieces, my
And
God.
the thing about those centerpieces is it was, and this is what you do with everything that you do. It just embodied who he is and who he wants to become. And that evolved over the last few months. He went from wanting to be just one thing to having other things. And the way you pivoted, like the pivot game is amazing. The way you pivot, I mean, we saw little laptops floating in the centerpieces, as well as basketballs, images of him playing, and that open house was no easy feat because he was grieving, so he was inconsistent, with what he wanted, and he was growing and changing, and it was absolutely beautiful. And the food, we finally got our mojo back with the food. That was good.
The food was absolutely delicious.
Because food is definitely one of our love languages, as they say.
Yes.
And baby, the first few meals together.
I told you.
Yeah, Nisha talked about that. She said you could taste the grief in the food.
Yeah.
With Granny and Uncle D gone,
It was just pitiful.
I just didn't even know where we were. I didn't know what was going on.
But once we actually said it out loud,
yes,
then we got to figure it out. And so shots, I found a stash of his. Donovan had a stash of seasoning. He was waiting to put his seasoning together. And I came in here. I ain't know no measurements, but I had the ingredients, and that chicken was on point.
Yes, it was.
That chicken was on point. And I had Uncle John to yell and fuss at.
Yes.
So it's just, it's a lot to adjust to.
Mm-hmm.
In all my life, I never cooked a pot of greens until Granny passed.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was wanting some greens.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only one other person I know that can cook greens. And I said, ain't no sense of me bugging her. Let me just get on in here.
Yeah.
And I figured it out. But food is definitely something that we gather around. So we had to figure it out.
Yes, we did. But we got it now. Now, my cousin Michael, he on the greens. He can do it too. Amazing greens at that open house.
Absolutely.
Been such a beautiful conversation. I'm so happy about it.
Me too. I'm so happy you shared your story with us, Auntie.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, we like to tell you all the time, we are not experts.
Mm-hmm.
We are figuring this thing out as we go. Some days are better than most. And then sometimes you have days where you're just like back in the thick of it. But one thing that we know for sure is that there is growth, there is joy on the other side of this thing. And if you need help, we encourage you to reach out to whether that's a widow's group, a support group, professional counseling, BetterHelp. There's a lot of online resources. But get the help that you need. If you're experiencing any medical emergencies, make sure you seek professional help, because again, we're not professionals. We're just sharing our story, and our prayer is that it will help you as it's helping us every single week. So Auntie Bay, best auntie ever, thank you for joining us. And thank you for sharing your story.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Yes.
One more thing. Some people say you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be better. Mm-hmm. Don't look to heal from grief. Mm-hmm. Because you're gonna always grieve. It may not be a big boo-hoo cry, but you're always grieved, because just when you think it's over, something triggers it. So just try to manage it. Don't try to heal it. Is what I would say.
That's good.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
And don't forget, we have one more resource for you. Sound Mind Health Services, Crystal Harris. You can find her on most of your social media platforms. You can search for her on her website, but I highly recommend her. I know of people personally using her services, and they are growing through grief. They're growing through all types of situations. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Bay, for joining us, Auntie Lin. And sister, thank you for the vision. We love you too.
So much. All right, you all. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.